Madeline didn't like the sound of that at all. Master Turnberry had just stated that he didn't think Ariana was dead in the mine. She stared at him, completely shocked because she could sense the change in his attitude toward her arch-enemy. "This isn't good," she reasoned. She had invested so much in the old man. She had done everything he asked, no matter how outrageous. She wasn't now going to stand him siding with Ariana. "Master Turnberry, do you also believe she's alive?" she said aggrievedly. "I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but Ariana is gone." Master Turnberry could sense the insincerity in her tone and threw a dirty look at her. Turin smirked and added, "Ariana is the only reason we could get out. There's no way she's trapped inside." "What does he mean?" Madeline pondered as she gave the student a cold stare. He suddenly felt tense. "What did you say?" Madeline asked. Turin replied, "Ariana helped us get out." Madeline didn't believe him. She turned to Mr. Ortega for an explanation. He nodded and explained. "The formation completely changed and the safe passageway was blocked. We are only out because we followed Ariana's paper crane." "What paper crane?" Madeline inquired, glaring at him. Mr. Ortega replied, "Just like the one you tore up earlier." Madeline didn't know what to say. Those words felt like a slap to her face. "That little paper crane? It's impossible," she murmured. "I don't believe you." "Suit yourself. Ariana let us out of the mine, and that's a fact. I'm sure she'll be able to get out herself," Turin said confidently. "What do you mean?" Mr. Yates asked in shock. Why is everybody telling a different story? He wondered. "You said you watched Ariana get buried alive," he said as he turned to Madeline. Without waiting for a response, he turned to Turin and asked, "Did you say Ariana led you out? Which of you is telling the truth? Is Ariana alive or not?" "We were lost at first, and even Master Turnberry couldn't find the way. Luckily, we had a paper crane that Ariana gave us earlier, and it led us out of the tunnel," Turin said. "How could a paper crane lead you out?" Mr. Baker asked. "Ariana told us the paper crane had level 8 inscriptions on it," Turin continued. "Now that's just ridiculous. Level 8 inscriptions? Do you know what that means?" Mr. Baker said as he smirked. "If that's the case, where's your proof?" "There's no proof because the bird burned and vanished into thin air," Turin said. "So you don't have any evidence?" Mr. Baker said mockingly. Turin added, "Master Turnberry saw it with his own eyes too." Madeline gave Mr. Baker a signaling glance, and he continued questioning Turin. "Master Turnberry hasn't said such a thing. You really shouldn't make up stories like that," he replied. "He's telling the truth," Master Turnberry suddenly said. Everybody was shocked. Mr. Baker and the other tutors couldn't believe what they heard because level 8 inscriptions were precious and only used in the central area of the school by rich students. In their eyes, Ariana was a normal student from a humble background, so they wondered, how could she possibly have attained such an artifact? As though they were not already in enough shock, Turin added, "Ariana has many of them. She gave one to each of us." Madeline retorted vindictively, "Not me." "Yes, you're the only one she left out," Turin said. Madeline almost exploded with anger. Mr. Baker said, "Didn't you say the crane vanished? You can say whatever you want, but if you have no evidence, No one here will believe you." Seeing that Turin was about to bring up Master Turnberry again, Mr. Baker cut him off. "I'll only believe you if Ariana comes out alive." Everybody stared at the exit, wondering if Ariana would come out alive. Then, as though right on cue, the ground suddenly began to shake more violently than before. Rocks kept falling from the mouth of the cave, almost hitting the people outside. One did hit Mr. Baker on the head, and he almost burst into tears. "Mr. Yates, did you hear that? The collapse is coming in our direction. We should leave now," Mr. Baker urged everybody. "Ariana must be dead. I doubt she can survive this," he added. Mr. Yates couldn't keep his balance either. The cracks on the ground looked like spider webs. The sound grew louder and louder. The next moment, clouds gathered in the sky, turning it as dark as night. "Look! The walls of the mine are cracking too!" Mr. Baker yelled as he jumped to his feet. Everybody looked up. He was right. There were cracks on the outer wall. They were expanding, and it looked like the mine was about to collapse. The walls were over 50 yards high, and if they fell on them, they would all be buried in the secret essence mine. They had to leave. Madeline cherished her life more than anything else and was the first to run. Mr. Baker followed her. Mr. Crow and the others looked at one another before anxiously turning to Mr. Yates. He was so worried that he felt sick. He couldn't flee. "If Ariana is alive inside and we leave her here to die, the Crown Prince will punish us all. When that happens, they'll all wish they'd died here today," he reasoned. "I would rather die here than run away. Run, all of you," he said to the others. Mr. Roderick and the others anxiously looked at the shaking mine that could collapse at any moment. They couldn't bring themselves to leave Mr. Yates behind. "Go!" Mr. Yates exclaimed. He stayed because he had already taken full responsibility for himself. If he died with Ariana, maybe the Crown Prince would spare the Sphinx Academy. Meanwhile, Ariana and the other two students rushed through the mine as quickly as possible. Ariana knew that she wouldn't have had to worry about a collapse of that magnitude if Little Phoenix had been present. The bird could feel everything ahead of time and would have known the best way out. However, the bird was still cultivating, so they were on their own. Figuring out the right route wasn't enough. They also had to avoid places where the walls could cave in. The collapse was right on their heels. It was moving as fast as they were. They were all well aware that if Ariana had been a little slower calculating their route, they would have all died. Axel kept his eyes on Ariana and didn't dare disturb her. Even Master Madden didn't dare make a sound. Ariana was too important to them now. After all, she was their ticket out of there. Luckily, she was a level 8 formation master, and she knew the formation of the mine inside out, so she was able to choose the best route every single time. She found it strange when she noticed a faint hint of phoenix smell from the collapse that was on her heels. It was the energy of the true phoenix blood. "Is that Madeline?" she wondered. Ariana frowned and stopped abruptly as she realized something. "If it is the effect of the true phoenix blood, will my own divine phoenix blood be able to stop it?" she wondered. When he saw Ariana stop, Axel thought he would have a heart attack. "Ariana! God, why are you standing there? Run!" he yelled. The collapse was almost upon them. Ariana took out a dagger and slid it across her palm. blood oozed out of it. She splatted drops of her blood toward the collapsed site. "Ariana, what are you doing? Run!" Axel grabbed her and pulled her along the tunnel. Caught by surprise, Ariana was dragged away. Axel shouted excitedly, seeing the light up ahead. "The exit's right ahead! Run!" The collapse seemed to speed up behind them. It was as if a beast had woken up deep in the mine. Master Madden grabbed Axel, who grabbed Ariana in turn and picked up his speed. In a second, they rushed out of the mine. The moment they were outside, the mine's entrance collapsed, and they were hit with a cloud of dust and rubble. Master Madden saw Mr. Yates kneeling on the ground, so he grabbed the ladder with his free hand and ran away from the collapsing site. Ariana felt dizzy from all the yanking, so she hadn't figured out that a shadow phoenix was in the collapsed mine. The shadow phoenix had been trapped inside a jade pendant with a design of flames spread out like a phoenix soaring in the sky. Madeline had put a drop of her blood on the pendant to wake up the shadow phoenix. Enraged, the bird started the explosion that brought down the entire mine. It was only a shadow, but it could destroy the whole mine with one sneeze. It could have done more than collapse the mine if it had recovered more strength, and the result would have been terrifying. The phoenix licked its beak when it tasted Ariana's blood. "What?" it thought. The bird was confused. "This food tastes much better." It had been a long time since it had tasted the blood of such quality. It couldn't understand why the blood had suddenly become so tasty, but it wanted all its food to taste like that. Somehow, the bird felt it was born to feed on things like that blood. What it had eaten before was rubbish in comparison. It threw a dirty look in Madeline's direction as it returned to the pendant. Madeline didn't know that her true phoenix blood was far less potent than the divine phoenix blood running through Ariana's veins. She was also yet to find out that now that the shadow phoenix had tasted Ariana's blood, it would resist Madeline's blood when she tried to get the bird to do dirty deeds for her in the future. When the others saw Ariana, Axel, and Master Madden, they rushed over to greet them. But of course, there were a few exceptions, one of them being Madeline. It had never occurred to her that Ariana would come out alive. She ground her teeth. She had ordered the Shadow Phoenix to kill Ariana, no matter the cost, but the bird had disappointed her. Recalling what she had said about seeing Ariana getting buried, she felt mortified. When she thought the others weren't looking, she slipped away. But Mr. Baker had been watching Madeline, and he was surprised when he saw her leave. Has she given up? He wondered. Fearing humiliation, he took a page out of Madeline's book and ran off as well. Mr. Yates was so excited to see Ariana that he burst into tears. He grabbed her shoulders and examined her as if she were his granddaughter. Master Turnberry glanced at Ariana and ordered, "Come with me." Ariana walked away with him. The other people gathered together and exchanged stories about their adventures in the mine. Hearing their conversations, Mr. Yates frowned and said, "So, Madeline was lying when she said she saw you all being buried alive." "She wasn't even with us. How could she see that?" Turin replied. Axel nodded and added, "That's right. There was no way she could have seen us. Moreover, if she did, why didn't she try to save us? And how did she get out?" Mr. Yates and the other tutors found Axel's argument very reasonable. They were going to question Madeline, but realized she was no longer there. "She disappeared quickly enough," Mr. Yates commented as he gritted his teeth. He now realized that there was something off about Madeline. Turin said, "We only got out because of Ariana's paper crane." "That's right. Master Turnberry said the formation had changed, and he didn't know the way anymore. We lost all hope. Luckily, we had Ariana's crane on us, and it showed us the way out," Andy confirmed. Axel was surprised and inquired, "Was that how you got out? I never thought the paper cranes would work." Andy continued, "What of you? How did you get out?" "Ariana let us out," Axel replied. Andy was astonished. "Are you saying Ariana knew her way around the mine? Is she a level 8 inscription master?" "That's impossible. She might know the way, but she can't be a level 8 inscription master. Even Master Turnberry isn't at that level yet," Axel said as he shook his head. "Maybe someone gave her the paper cranes," Roman suggested timidly. Axel added, "That's right. That has to be it. That's why she was so generous with them." Everybody nodded, as that made more sense to them than Ariana being a level 8 inscription master. In their minds, all inscription masters were elderly people like Master Turnberry, and for the most part, they weren't wrong. It took a long time to achieve such a skill, with most people reaching it in their later years. "Axel!" Turin suddenly cried out. Everybody looked at him. "What?" Axel asked. "Axel, you feel different," Turin stated curiously. "I feel the same," Axel retorted. Turin knew Axel had the same energy as him, so he could tell when it was different. "There's something so formidable about your energy now," Turin insisted. Mr. Yates also looked at Axel and his eyes widened. "You're a spiritual king now," he yelled in shock. "A spiritual king?" Axel repeated. Everybody looked at him in astonishment. They thought about how eagerly they wanted to defeat the military academy. The military academy team had at least 2 spiritual kings, but the Sphinx Academy had never had any before, which was a source of great humiliation. They all started yelling in excitement. "Really? Axel is a spiritual king now? Oh my God, this is great news. Axel, how did you do it? Teach us." All the other students asked him for instructions, but Axel couldn't hear any of them. He was in a trance-like state, trying to wrap his head around what he had heard. He tried to check his energy center, but was too excited to control his spiritual essence properly. He wanted this so badly that when it happened, he didn't know what to do. It took him a while to regain control and examine himself. He was ecstatic when he realized he had become a spiritual king. On that continent, only cultivators at the spiritual king stage and above were considered true masters. The spiritual king stage was a benchmark of great cultivators. Above it were the rulers, and below it were those who were ruled. He had finally crossed the threshold and entered a new phase. It was a great achievement for himself, his family, and his school. Axel almost burst into tears, but took a deep breath and fought back the urge to cry. He knew perfectly well how he had become a spiritual king. Master Madden looked at him in satisfaction. He also knew what had happened. He was a witness. He had seen Ariana hand the spirit wine to Axel, who drank it and made the breakthrough. Transforming a spiritual lord into a spiritual king would be next to impossible without the spirit wine. But with it, the process was easy. Master Madden looked at the team and was thrilled about the possibility of all of them becoming spiritual kings. However exciting the thought of using the spirit wine on the rest of the team might have been, Master Madden knew that it wouldn't be that simple. Axel Leone had been a special case. He had reached the peak of the spiritual lord stage, but had been prevented from further progress by damage to his energy center. While the spirit wine had worked to repair that damage to allow him to become a spiritual king, it would make no difference to the others. Axel simply gazed in the direction Ariana had taken when she left with Master Turnberry. It worked! He marveled. She said she would make me a spiritual king, and she did. God only knows how. She can't blame me for having doubted her, surely. No one in their right mind, not even the head of the academy, would have thought she could do that. When they had sufficiently distanced themselves from the others, Master Turnberry turned to confront Ariana, his eyebrows raised in expectation of her immediate explanation. She doesn't look intimidated, he thought, disappointed. Normally, this expression does the trick. Far from being flustered in the presence of one of the Academy's elders, Ariana gazed coolly back. "Where did you get the paper cranes?" he asked. Ariana remained silent. "Who gave them to you? Who's your master?" he demanded. "Why are you wasting your time on this?" she asked. "I'm sure there are far more important matters you could be attending to. The repairs to the perimeter of the eastern woods, for example?" Master Turnberry's face clouded. How does she know about those? He wondered. Thrown off guard by her comment, he didn't try to stop her when she turned and walked away. She's full of surprises, that one, Master Turnberry mused as he watched her leave. Could be useful. Returning to her dormitory and hoping to find Aaron and Hallie, Ariana was surprised to find Marissa McDonald had made herself at home and was lounging on a chair reading. Looking up as the door opened and expecting to see Hallie, Marissa was similarly taken aback to see that it was Ariana. She scrambled to her feet, dropping her book in the process. She had witnessed Ariana's power in the secret essence mine, and quite sensibly had decided not to antagonize her any further. But what if she's after revenge? She worried. She could do that easily. I don't want to be forced to go to the Peace Grassland like Chrissy. I'll just play nice, she decided. Maybe she'll be willing to put it all behind us. But what do I say? We're not exactly friends. I don't want to sound like I'm sucking up to her. Ugh. Marissa continued to wrestle with her thoughts. And now I'm just standing here saying nothing, looking like a total idiot. What if she just ignores me and walks away? You're reading, Ariana observed. Yes. Relieved to have been rescued from having to make the first move, and struck by the casual remark after what they had been through, Marissa struggled to find an appropriate response. Ariana simply nodded and headed off to her corner of the dormitory. After expending so much of her energy in fighting, she needed to take a break. Is that it? Are we good now? Wondered Marissa. Could it be that easy? Her face fell as Ariana stopped and turned back toward her. Here we go, thought Marissa as she braced herself for the full force of Ariana's wrath. I should have known I wouldn't get off that lightly. Ariana sat down and patted the chair. Sit. Tentatively, Marissa sat. She's smiling at me. What does that mean? She wondered. You don't seem to have much to do at the moment, so perhaps you could answer some questions for me, Ariana said. Before Marissa could say anything, Ariana continued. Have you heard of the military academy team? Is that all? Marissa felt herself relax. Of course I have. I was one of the cheerleaders when our team fought them last year. We lost miserably. She replied. Really? I heard our team lost, but didn't know it was that bad. So the teams are going to compete again, are they? Marissa mused. I guess that means she's taking part. This could be my way back into her favor. There's going to be another fight, is there? She asked. Have they asked you to be part of the dynasty team for that? I would stay out of it if I were you. Ariana shrugged. Well, if you have to take part, try to be the last fighter. Marissa advised. Why? It'll be a succession of one-on-one fights with 5 on each team. The winner stays on. The team with the last member standing wins. Marissa explained. From experience, she went on. Our first 4 get beaten up pretty badly. Whoever is last at least has the option to give in, knowing that the competition is already lost. So if you must take part, go last and get out without being injured. Ariana rolled her eyes. Why are you so sure that we'll lose? Honestly? Of course. How times have changed, thought Marissa. Not long ago, I would have grabbed this chance to send her off to ignominious defeat. All that time I spent trying to get someone else to get rid of her for me. Now I'm trying to talk her out of it. If I had spent time getting to know her instead of plotting against her, I could have saved myself a lot of trouble. Don't leave me hanging, urged Ariana. Why do you think it's a foregone conclusion that we'll lose? Everybody knows the military academy has 2 spiritual kings because they fought in the competition last year. They're Luigi Laredo and Chester Chaikin. Ariana nodded. And? Today we heard that another member from their team, Leighton Floyd, has become a spiritual king. So they already have 3 spiritual kings. We have none. Axel is a spiritual king now, Ariana told her. Really? Really. Marissa's eyes lit up briefly, then clouded, and her shoulders slumped. One spiritual king won't make any difference. The corner of Ariana's mouth quirked up. I'm a spiritual king too. Here we go again, Marissa thought, any spark of optimism snuffed out. Just when I thought we could get along, she's back to her idle boasting. Have it your way, Marissa told Ariana. I might have stayed to watch, or even cheered you on, given that we're hosting the competition this year. But I think I'll just take some leave and go home. Why would you do that? I just told you. We're going to lose miserably. Why would I want to watch it? And it's just as embarrassing for the cheerleaders. Marissa answered. Why do you think we're going to lose? Urged Ariana. Who's going to lose? Asked Erin. She and Hallie just arrived back at the dormitory. It's the upcoming competition against the military academy, Marissa explained. We're going to lose, obviously, but Ariana has other ideas. Erin and Hallie eagerly sat down. Come on, Ariana, spill, urged Hallie. What do you know? Are we going to win this year? Of course we are, Erin told her, her eyes sparkling. With Ariana on the team, there's no way we'll lose. Marissa regarded them with exasperation. Get real. The military academy has at least 3 spiritual kings on their team. Hallie's hands shot to her mouth. That many? What about? We have 1, at most. Marissa snapped. Oh, so that's why there's been a rush of requests to go home for a few days, Hallie said, realization dawning. They can't bear to watch it happen again. Exactly. said Marissa. "I'm leaving too." "Well, I know Ariana is going to win," Aaron declared. Marissa gave her a pitying look. "Do you know why our team is down by one member? The only reason Ariana is on the team at all?" Met with blank looks, she continued. "Sunil was on the team for the competition last year, and Chester Chaikin injured him so severely that he's bedridden, even now. And Chester's only the second best fighter in their team." Marissa paused to make sure they were all paying attention. "Luigi, their captain, defeated Axel in 3 stances. They crushed us. I can't believe we're even thinking of taking them on again. Never mind that Axel might have finally made it to the spiritual king. I heard that the military academy found a secret manifestation place this year and made great progress. How on earth can we hope to beat them?" Marissa let out a sigh and then turned to Ariana. "There. I've told you everything you need to know. Take my advice. Pull out or go last. Your pride might take a knock, but at least you won't be bedridden for a year." Ariana looked coolly back at her. "Are you saying we should give up without trying?" "I don't like it any more than you do. Believe me," Marissa said, her jaw tightening. "Do you know what they did last year after they won? Luigi Laredo cut down our flag. Talk about rubbing salt into the wounds. Who wouldn't want to get back at them for that? But we can't get back at them," she continued, her face reddening. "We're so much weaker than they are. How are we supposed to win?" Ariana regarded Marissa with a newfound admiration. "Well, well," she thought. "I never knew you cared about anyone or anything other than yourself. But you do care about this school, don't you?" Marissa stared hopefully at Ariana. "Do you get it now? It's not that we don't care about the competition. Beating the military academy means so much to this school, but everyone is scared. I hope Aaron is right. I do," she continued. "I wish I shared her conviction that you can help our school to win, but you've only just joined the team." Ariana looked at her quizzically. "I'll admit you're talented, and you've been making amazing progress," Marissa conceded. "But this is a battle beyond your level. You don't stand a chance." "Shut up!" Aaron shouted, glaring at Marissa. Ariana raised her hand, signaling for Aaron to calm down, then turned to address Marissa. "I understand your concern, and I'm grateful. But trust me, I'll lead the Dynasty team and restore the school's honor." Marissa looked into Ariana's eyes. Not a shred of doubt there, she thought. "You believe what you're telling me, don't you? Could you do it? I want to believe you." She shook her head to clear the thought away. "No, that's crazy. How could the weakest member of the team ever hope to lead them to victory?" Marissa was about to restate her intention to abandon the event, but hesitated and then changed her mind. "All right, I'll stay, and I'll even be a cheerleader." A smile spread across Ariana's face. "I think you'll have to set up a new cheerleading team first. From what you've said, most of them will be going home." "Good point." Marissa allowed herself to smile back before resuming her serious tone. "Now, if you're determined to do this, how well do you know how the competition works?" "Not at all." Marissa smacked herself on the forehead. What have I done? Why did I let myself believe her? How can she hope to help the team win if she doesn't even know the first thing about it? She took a deep breath, screwed up her eyes, and pinched her nose. Letting out a long sigh, she looked steadily at Ariana. "Okay, here we go. Both sides have a main team and a backup team, she explained. Before the main teams go head-to-head to determine which side wins the competition, the backup teams fight. Whichever side wins that fight gets to determine the order in which the members of the main teams will compete, Marissa said. Really? That's interesting, Ariana replied. Yes, so if our backup team loses, the military academy's team will get to decide not only their order, but also the order in which our main team will fight. They'll put their strongest fighters first, and then we're bound to lose, Marissa added. How do you work that out? Ariana questioned. Marissa looked at Ariana in exasperation. Luigi is bound to go first for them, and he'll soon see off all 5 of our team. There'll be no coming back from that. We would never live it down. Best case scenario, she went on, is that our backup team wins, gets to decide their order, and sends their weakest members first. That way, even though we would still lose, we might be able to defeat some of them in the process. It would be a less embarrassing defeat. Ariana didn't know what to say. Do all the students here think they're going to lose? Ariana was still pondering Marissa's pessimistic view of Sphinx Academy's chances in the competition against the military academy when she went to talk to Mr. Yates in his office. About the competition, she started. Not now. He shifted uncomfortably as he cut her off, refusing to make eye contact. Ariana was halfway out the door when she heard an apologetic, "Just stay safe." So that's it then, she thought as she walked away. No wonder none of the students think we can win if that's the attitude of their deputy chief. Arriving at the training area in the center of Sphinx Academy, so positioned because of the concentration of spiritual essence, Ariana became aware of a discussion between members of the Dynasty team, so she hung back to listen. She recognized Andy Wang and Roman Han, but wasn't sure of the others. Axel didn't seem to be with them. She listened carefully to their conversation because they seemed to be discussing tactics. How about we focus all our strength on the backup team this time? Put our best members in the backup team, you mean? I see. So we'll get to decide on the order, right? That's the idea. If we can do that, we won't lose as miserably as last year. Ugh, don't remind me. Is Luigi Laredo defeating all 5 of our main team? Nightmare. We can't let that happen again. So, who are you suggesting for the backup team? Turin? I suppose it isn't strictly against the rules to use varsity players in the backup team, but isn't it a bit unsportsmanlike? Won't the military academy just laugh at us? Probably, but it can't be any worse than the alternative. Do you have any better ideas? I can't think of anything we haven't already dismissed as unworkable. This is so frustrating. What's happened to us? We used to own this competition. Ariana decided it was time to make her presence known. Approaching the group, she asked innocently, "Why are you all focusing on the least miserable way to lose? I don't understand." Initially startled by the arrival of the newest member of their team, their faces took on sympathetic smiles. "You're new here, so you don't know," said Roman. "We don't stand a chance. Our only option is to lose with as much integrity as we can muster." Turning back to the others, he continued their discussion. "Just adding Turin to the backup team won't be enough. How about putting Axel in as well?" "Well," said Andy, "good luck selling that one to him. Rather you than me. I'm happy to step down for Turin. Ariana, you're new and won't be much use." He missed the venomous look shot in his direction for that comment. "So you can give up your place to Axel." Sick of the negativity and patronizing comments of her new teammates, Ariana was about to make her feelings known when she heard footsteps. "Hello, am I interrupting something? What did I miss?" The team turned as one to see their captain, Axel Leone, regarding them with a quizzical gaze. Momentarily speechless, the students looked at one another, each of them wondering how much of their discussion Axel had heard, and none of them wanting to be the one to break it to him. One by one, they turned to face Roman Hahn. "Oh no," he thought, realization dawning. "They all want me to do it. As junior varsity captain, could I delegate this? Probably not. Oh well, better get on with it. I'll stress that it's for the good of the school." Squaring his shoulders and raising his chin, he addressed Axel solemnly. "We've been talking things over and have a suggestion." "Okay, I'm listening," Axel replied. "Last year we were thrashed, and the military academy's team has made significant progress since then, which we can't match. This makes us feel anxious about suffering another miserable defeat and bringing further disgrace to the school. With a stronger backup team, we could win the first round and dictate the order for the main match. You're the strongest fighter we have, so if you join the backup team, that would give us the best chance. How does that sound to you?" Roman said. Roman held his breath and looked hopefully toward Axel. "Screw you!" Axel hissed. Roman was dumbfounded. "I thought I made a good argument. I even convinced myself." "We have Ariana now," Axel declared. "With her on the team, and with what she has, I'm sure we'll win." Ariana looked heavenward.
"I knew he would get carried away after finding out about the spirit wine. I sent most of it home as soon as we got back here, and little Phoenix said it would help Axel because his energy center was fractured. It might not do anything for the others on the team."
Attention turned to the newcomer. Ariana was acknowledged to be a talented fighter, possibly just stronger than Roman, but the students doubted she could be as good as anybody on the varsity team. The varsity team, Alex, Turin, and Miguel, together with Kelvin Kerr and Lee Willis, are all level 9 spiritual lords, aren't they? The other students thought. Why is their captain so confident that this new girl will make all the difference? Before they could put their doubts into words, there was a shout from outside. "The military academy's people are here!" Caleb Flint, a distant cousin of Axel, came running in, his eyes gleaming. "I thought they weren't coming for another 3 days." Axel frowned, then looked at Caleb. "What is it? You've got some gossip, I can tell." "Both teams from the military academy are here along with their tutor, and you'll never guess who that is this year." "I can see you're going to tell me." "It's Miss Weiss! Only now she's Vice Principal Weiss." Caleb surveyed the effect of this news on the team. Their mouths were agape as they struggled for a suitable response. Ariana alone was unaffected. She simply looked puzzled.
"Who's Miss Weiss?"
she wondered.
"What's the big deal?"
With a quick shake of his head, Axel sought to bring his team to order. "Well, since they're here already, let's get on with it. To battle!" Wrestling with the implications of Caleb's announcement, and still wondering how to best approach the competition, the team followed their captain toward the combat arena. Ariana caught up with Axel.
"Who's Miss Weiss?"
she asked. When Axel didn't answer, Turin chipped in. "She used to be married to Mr. Yates. It was all a bit messy. Anyway, don't act weirdly when we see her later."
"Why would I act weirdly?"
wondered Ariana.
"I still don't know what the big deal is."
Seeing the confusion written across Ariana's face, Turin decided more explanation was required. Miss Weiss used to be our tutor here. As I said, she was married to Mr. Yates at the time. Then they got divorced. Within a month, she had married the head of the military academy."
Miguel, who had overheard the conversation, joined in.
"Everyone knows they had been having an affair before she dumped poor Mr. Yates." "That was a horrible year," Calvin added. "Our team was thrashed, our flag was cut down, and Miss Weiss cheated on Mr. Yates with the head of the school that humiliated us." "I thought you would at least have the decency to stay away from here," Lee chipped in. "But turning up as the tutor in charge of their team, she's crossed the line." "I didn't think it could get worse than last year, but if we lose again," Turin said, kicking the ground in frustration.
The news of the arrival spread around the school to a mixed reaction. While some, angered at the audacity of their former tutor, went into the forest to channel their fury against a magical beast, others disappeared into the manifestation rooms to avoid having to witness the inevitable embarrassment. Most students, however, decided to put their full support behind their school and Deputy Chief of Year 4, and they followed the Dynasty team to the combat arena. Axel and his team arrived to find Mr. Yates confronting his ex-wife.
"The competition isn't due to start for another 3 days. You're early," he accused.
"This is the only day we're free," she retorted.
"Stop trivializing this. You can't just go changing the date because it suits you."
"What can change in 3 days? Are you going to have more spiritual kings by then?" she asked mockingly. The military academy team laughed derisively. A vein started to throb on Mr. Yates's forehead.
"You haven't changed."
Miss Weiss's voice dripped with disdain.
"You were always stubborn and unwilling to take any risks. Is it any wonder I left you?"
Mr. Yates's face went livid.
"Come on, Ernesto. We all know how weak your team is. Let's just get this over with, shall we? We've got important business over in Peace Grassland."
Waving aside her ex-husband's spluttering attempt at a response, Miss Weiss continued her verbal assault.
"You're going to lose anyway. 3 more days isn't going to change that, is it?"
Axel and his teammates echoed their deputy chief as they clenched their fists and shook with rage. Ariana, however, regarded Miss Weiss more coolly. "I see you. You've done this on purpose." Ariana, unencumbered by the history between Mr. Yates and the newly promoted Vice Principal Weiss of the military academy, considered the situation rationally. "She's deliberately trying to wind us up. Bringing the competition forward by 3 days was a ploy. But why go to all that effort? It can't be because they think they might otherwise lose if what everyone says about the strength of their team and how easily they beat us last year is true. If this is all about getting to Peace Grassland, why is that? Has something happened? Surely if that were the case, we would have heard about it as well. There must be something in it for the military academy," Ariana decided.
"So be it!"
The shout from one of her teammates jolted her out of her contemplations.
"Let's have the competition today then. You don't scare us,"
yelled Miguel.
"Miguel, I thought that was you. Long time no see."
One of the military academy team strode up to the teenager, whose face reddened. "That's Chester Chaikin," Andy Wang whispered to Ariana. "He gave us hell last year." Ariana studied the 2 students, who were shouting at each other, egged on by their respective teams.
"Fine,"
Mr. Yates declared.
"Let's just get on with it." In the hush that followed, he looked straight at his opposite number, and his face hardened. The backup teams will compete first, followed by the main teams. To allow for both contests, it'll need to take place over 2 days. Miss Weiss cut him off with a wave of her hand. Why 2? We can dispense with the backup contest and skip straight to the main event. You can decide the order of our players. Patronizing woman! Mr. Yates fumed. What did I ever see in her? If I take them up on that and we do manage to win, they'll say it was handed to us. He took a deep breath and forced himself to calm down. The rules say 2 games, he insisted, with as much patience as he could muster. And we have to follow the rules. Whatever. Miss Weiss smirked. You're going to lose anyway. If you want to lose 2 contests instead of just 1, so be it. I never liked her, thought Lee, but I swear she's gotten worse since she left. That promotion's gone to her head. The backup teams will compete today, and the main teams tomorrow. Mr. Yates had recovered his composure and leveled his gaze. You never did listen, did you? It was the turn of Miss Weiss to become irate. My team is in a hurry to get to Peace Grassland. We don't have that kind of time. We finish this today. The former spouses were at a stalemate. Sir, let's do it! Turin shouted. Mr. Yates was taken aback by his team's determination, as voiced by Turin, and watched Axel Leone gather them for a team talk. Gathering the military academy's team in a separate huddle, Luigi Laredo, captain of the first team, patted Adriel Cold, captain of the second team, on the shoulder. You're up first then. Good luck. Not that you need it. While you're competing, the rest of us will go and explore the campus, Luigi Laredo said. Adriel gave him a confident smile. Don't take too long. You'll be on before you know it. In readiness for the backup team's contest, announced Mr. Yates, I need the captains to hand in their team sheets in 5 minutes. Once the sheets have been handed in, there can be no changes. Ariana silently took in the members of the opposition. With a twitch of her mouth, as she recognized some of them, she ascertained that they weren't the invincible force they reckoned to be. Shifting her gaze to the gathering crowd, she saw some familiar faces. Marissa McDonald had kept her promise to cheer her on. She had been joined by Sean Fitzgerald, Waylon Adler, Leonard Lipsky, and Pierce Griffin, among others. Look, over there, in their second team. Didn't we run into them in the secret essence mine? Asked Leonard. Marissa followed where he was pointing. You're right, it's them. But how did they get out? They were surrounded by spirit stoneworms when we last saw them. I felt sure they were goners. If only. Then they wouldn't have been able to come here to humiliate us like this. Roman was taking charge of Dynasty's team sheet for the first of the 2 contests. I've got Andy, Ashley, Ethan, and me down for definite. Axel's ruled himself out of stepping in to give us a boost. So how about you join us, Miguel? Without someone from the varsity team in the backup contest, we'll struggle to win it and dictate terms for the main event. Miguel opened his mouth to object, but was cut off by Roman. It's a step down for you, I know. But if all 5 of us on the backup team are beaten, it'll be even more embarrassing, he insisted. All right then. Miguel reluctantly agreed. Great. Thanks, buddy. Roman started filling in the names on the team sheet, but was interrupted by Axel. Whoa, not so fast. What about Ariana? He said. She had been about to ask the same question. Well, she's new, and so... Roman started to reply, but stopped short under the glare from the varsity team captain. I meant to say, he resumed diplomatically. The paperwork hasn't been completed yet, so she's not an official team member. What if the military academy found out about that? We would never hear the last of it.
Axel took out a piece of paper and brandished it in front of Roman.
So that's what you were up to. How did you get Miss Monroe to sign that?
If you only knew, thought Axel. He wasn't about to tell the others that he had been given the runaround and that it had taken the intervention of Master Madden to get Ariana's paperwork fully signed.
Well, that's some good news then.
Roman pretended to be pleasantly surprised.
At least all members of the Dynasty team are official now. And she can help us win the contest.
Axel persisted.
But
Roman hesitated, trying to find the best way to put it, having seen his earlier effort thwarted.
She's only just joined us and hasn't been trained for this competition. I don't think she even knows the rules. Wouldn't it be too risky to let her compete? Shouldn't we protect her by leaving her out of it?
That sounded sincere. He congratulated himself. It's bad enough that they saw her drag me out of the room to see Mr. Yates and Mr. Hannigan that time. I'm not giving her any more chances to show me up. But Axel wasn't so easily fooled.
That's enough. We're all in this together. If you can't, or won't, support me, then I'll appoint another captain for the backup team.
To be fair to him, he thought, he doesn't know that Ariana is engaged to the Crown Prince, but I promised I would keep that to myself.
What?
Roman stared at his teammate in disbelief.
Captain!
Ignoring this plea, Axel turned to Ariana.
You'll be the new captain of the junior varsity team.
No problem, she agreed casually. Roman was furious.
I object! I wasn't asking for your opinion.
Axel told him without so much as a sideways glance.
Fine, have it your way. Since you don't want my opinion, you won't need me on the team anymore. I quit,
Roman said. He ripped off his team kit and threw it on the ground. His outburst had drawn the attention from all parts of the arena. Mr. Yates frowned at Axel, while Miss Weiss exchanged amused looks with the military academy team.
What's all this?
She gloated.
Dissension in the ranks. Mr. Yates, what have you been teaching your students?
Mr. Yates felt the sting in those words. Axel was glaring at Roman.
The competition is about to start. Are you sure you want to do this?
Of course, I know that. Roman fumed. And you can't do this without me. You need me more than I need you right now. Eyes blazing, he issued his challenge.
You heard. If you demote me, I'll quit.
Roman thought his threat would work because they didn't have backup players, so he figured Axel would beg him to stay. However, to his surprise, Ariana spoke first.
If you want to ruin your future, you're welcome to do so. The door's right over there. She motioned toward the exit. You can leave now, she said.
Roman's face turned scarlet red, but after what he had just said, he knew he was left with no choice. He turned to Axel and shouted,
Fine! I hope you don't regret your reckless decision.
As he marched toward the door, Miguel gave Axel a pleading look, but ignored him. The others were visibly upset as well. It was evident that Roman didn't want Ariana to compete, but they were one member short and didn't know what to do. Turin said grumpily,
Doesn't he know how important today is? There's no time for his little tantrums. We can do without him. We'll borrow someone from the varsity team. So what if it's a little embarrassing?
Ariana shook her head.
That won't be necessary,
she stated. The others all gave her strange looks
and felt a bit irritated since she was the reason they were in a bind. Anyone else would have felt flustered to be the object of their ire, but Ariana was as confident as ever. "We're short." Turin trailed off as he tried to persuade her. He saw that she was unmoved by his pleading. Miguel's face darkened. "I'll do it," he announced. She repeated, "That won't be necessary." He was furious. He scowled at her and replied, "I know you're pretty, and people like you, but you're crossing the line. It's not the time to be so capricious." Roman and Miguel were good friends, so it was only natural that he would side with him. Ariana wouldn't acknowledge his outburst, though. He thought she was going to quarrel with him, but she didn't. Her bright eyes seemed to be able to see through everything. She looked at him without anger. She was more perplexed than anything else. It was as if she didn't understand why he was so angry. Since she didn't respond, he felt a little embarrassed and shuffled away. Mr. Yates's voice rang out at that moment. "You can hand in the names now," he declared. Roman had already recorded the challengers, so Ariana grabbed a pen, crossed out his name, and added hers at the bottom. Mr. Yates and Miss Weiss received the name list at the same time. He read it aloud first. "The Dynasty players are Andy Wang, Ashley Schneider, Ethan Fuentes, and Ariana Grace." He looked up and was surprised to see Ariana beaming at him. He twisted his face in response. Axel went up on stage and whispered something in his ear. "Nonsense!" he exclaimed angrily. However, the seats were half full, and the military academy was watching. It would have been embarrassing for the teacher to scold his student in front of them, so he decided he would wait until later when they were alone. He gave Axel a stern look, but the boy grinned and said, "Don't worry, Ariana is very talented." He left the stage while Mr. Yates grew increasingly angry. Next to Mr. Yates was Miss Weiss, and they had a complicated relationship. "What's going on?" she asked in a mocking tone. He ignored her and turned to look at Ariana. She nodded. "We can do it," she said, trying to assure him. He didn't have a choice, so he reluctantly announced, "Those will be our 4 players." The students in the audience were distressed. Not many had gone to watch because they all thought their school was going to lose. Even so, 30% of the seats were filled. All the Sphinx Academy students stared at Mr. Yates in bewilderment. They were under the impression that the competition should include 5 players on each side. The agreement was that the 10 players total competed. The team with the last member standing would win. Even though Sphinx Academy was likely to lose, they still wanted a chance to prove themselves. There were shouts from the crowd. "What's going on? Why do we only have 4 players?" Someone yelled. "Are we giving up? You know we don't have to be so proud." Another added. All of them were displeased. A person said, "I saw Roman leave. He's the captain of the junior varsity team, isn't he?" "I heard Ariana made him leave because she's the new captain. Or at least that's what I think based on how the names were announced." A student replied. "Ariana? Who's she?" Another chimed in. "She's the new student who's been making all that insanely fast progress." The student exclaimed. "No matter how capable she is, she's still a new student. Why is she qualified to be a team member or participate in the competition? Why would they make her the captain? I can't believe it." A girl cried out. "That's right. This competition is so important. Roman wouldn't have left unless Ariana did something to him," a boy added. Many people started condemning her. A boy next to Marissa was saying similar things, and she jumped to her feet in frustration. "What are you talking about? Ariana is so talented. Of course she's qualified to be a team member," she bellowed. The girl next to her was frightened by her reaction. She was from Class B and knew her classmates didn't like Ariana. Almost the entire class was against her, but she was surprised to learn that Marissa had switched sides. Everyone knew that she used to despise Ariana. "Why are you defending her?" she asked. Marissa replied heatedly, "Ariana is amazing. Just wait and see. You'll be convinced." The girl cringed, rose to her feet, and went to sit somewhere further away from Marissa. "I can't believe Ariana convinced her to switch sides," she grumbled to herself. Most of the students attending the event had already heard of Ariana, and many of them had previously interacted with her, especially the Class E students. They had spent the most time with her because she started as their equal. Hecuba, Daisy, Silver, and some others had seen how talented she was. At first, they were the anti-fans, the fans, and the neutral party. However, almost all of them had become Ariana's fans in the end. When Ariana's fans heard she was entering the competition, they all showed up to cheer her on. They helped to fill the stands and show support for the War Academy. They all tried to explain to the other students how amazing Ariana was. But since she had skipped classes C and D, most students didn't know her well and couldn't understand why Class E thought so highly of her. They figured that if she got along well with the Class E students, she couldn't be all that capable. Otherwise, she would be extremely proud and never socialize with Class E. They also felt that she had taken away Roman's role in a critical moment to buy herself popularity, which only showed how much of a schemer she was. So they disliked her and thought she was too malicious. The Class E students were frustrated but didn't know what to do. They tried to explain how excellent she was, but they couldn't give any detailed descriptions of her capability because it was beyond their knowledge. No one was sure if Ariana would win the competition either, which didn't help things. It didn't stop Marissa from singing her praises, though. After Sphinx Academy announced its players, Miss Weiss broadcasted theirs. The Military Academy's competitors were Raphael Ambrose, Uriel Matthews, Jophiel Sadler, Azriel White, and their captain, Adriel Cold. Miss Weiss thought she was being clever when she named her team. She announced Adriel's name last because Mr. Yates had announced that Ariana was joining them. He gave her a knowing look. Miss Weiss turned to him and declared confidently, "I'm leaving in 15 minutes." Mr. Yates snorted and replied, "You can't leave during the competition." She smiled and taunted, "It'll be over by then." Mr. Yates was livid. Ariana listened to their exchange and almost felt sorry for him. She hoped Miss Weiss would be humiliated because she was so egotistical and offensive. Miss Weiss happened to glance at Ariana at that moment, and she sneered at the girl. Ariana snorted. She extended her right arm and raised her thumb at her. Miss Weiss smiled, thinking the girl was going to surrender. However, the smile immediately turned to a frown when she saw that Ariana had turned her hand and aimed her thumb at the ground. Was that provocation? Miss Weiss wondered. She was a fierce woman. Almost all her students at Sphinx Academy and the Military Academy feared her. No one had disrespected her the way Ariana did. She made a mental note of her name. At that moment, Andy was walking up to the stage. As Miss Weiss watched him make his way to the platform, she turned to Raphael and asked quietly, "Can you defeat all four of them?" Raphael had made some great progress and was very confident in himself. He was excited to be the first player. "I'll try," he exclaimed. "You'll try?" she parroted as she narrowed her glare and frowned. "Yes, of course I will," Raphael answered. When he saw how disappointed Miss Weiss was in his original response, he immediately changed his answer. "I'll defeat all four of them," he exclaimed. She was glad to hear it and patted him on the shoulder. "Go ahead," she encouraged. He nodded and clenched his fist in excitement. If he could defeat all four opponents, Miss Weiss would give him special treatment in Peace Grassland, and his progress would be even faster. So he had an incentive. "This is going to be a piece of cake," he said. He didn't even try to lower his voice because the military academy was used to looking down on Sphinx Academy. Everyone wanted to slap him. They thought he was dreaming when he claimed he would be able to beat all four team members. Andy was so furious he was speechless when he heard the declaration. Raphael went up on the stage, and Andy made his first move before his opponent could stand still. It was the first battle, and everybody held their breaths, watching with their full attention. Feeling indignant, Andy spared no effort and made some very aggressive moves. Although Raphael was playing on the away team, he was much more capable than him and could easily avoid his attacks. He started winning after 3 stances. Ariana shook her head. "Andy's going to lose," she stated pragmatically. Miguel smirked and replied, "Nonsense. Andy hasn't shown his full strength yet. However, Raphael kicked Andy in the stomach before Miguel could finish his sentence. Andy stumbled back, and Raphael took the opportunity to kick him several times in a row. Andy's face flushed with humiliation and anger. He didn't want to lose. However, he had reached the edge of the arena. No matter how hard he tried, he was still kicked off the stage and fell to the ground. "No!" he screamed. With blood on his lips, Andy was so infuriated he refused to step away at first. He wanted another shot at proving his ability, but the kicks he received had severely injured his abdomen. He could barely stand, let alone fight. Ethan rushed to his side and helped him walk back to their team. The audience was dead silent. It had happened so fast. They had thought that even if Andy lost, he could at least bring some harm to his opponent. However, he was badly injured, and Raphael didn't even have a scratch on him. Raphael put his hands up in the air victoriously and arrogantly said, "Who's next?" Ashley raised her hand and proudly declared, "I am." She went up on the stage. She wasn't any better than Andy. However, she was more careful than him and managed to stay in the game a little longer. But it didn't make much of a difference. In the end, she was kicked off the stage just like her teammate. The other students were so nervous that their hearts raced and sweat poured down their foreheads. They couldn't believe how fast Ashley had lost. The junior team only had 4 players, and 2 had lost. The competition had only started 2 minutes prior. The audience from Sphinx Academy was so embarrassed that they wanted to leave. It was brutal to watch their team get butchered at home. Miguel was equally upset. Ashley hurt Raphael, but it was only a minor injury. He may win the next round too," he muttered. Nobody spoke because they all knew he was right. "Why is Raphael so capable? Is he going to defeat all our four?" Turin asked. He trembled with rage. If the names hadn't been announced, he would have headed for the stage to fight. By then, no one believed they had a chance to win. All they hoped for was not to lose too miserably. Miguel's shoulders dropped and he sighed. "That may happen. We've never been humiliated like this before," he murmured. He gave Ariana a dirty look. "If Roman hadn't been chased away, this would have never happened," he added. Ariana looked over at him. "Are you referring to me?" she asked. He snorted and said, "You know what I mean." She nodded. "Yes, I know myself very well," she commented. He turned around in frustration and wouldn't speak to her. "I'll go next," Ethan said solemnly. "I'll defeat Raphael, even if it costs me my life." Miguel nodded. Ariana frowned. "No one's going to die. Just do your best. I haven't competed yet," she uttered. However, her teammates didn't trust her. Axel was silently stewing. He had been leaning on a column with his arms crossed the whole time. He knew how capable Ariana was, and that the junior team couldn't possibly lose, even though Miguel and the others figured they were done for. He deliberately remained silent. He wanted to see how surprised the others would be when they saw her fight. He snorted as he thought about how foolishly they were behaving. Miguel looked back at him. He believed Axel was infatuated with Ariana's pretty face, so he rolled his eyes and turned his back on him. By then, Ethan was already on the stage. Raphael rubbed his chest where he had been injured. It doesn't matter. It was only a minor injury, he thought. Seeing Ethan step onto the stage, he raised his chin and glanced at him sideways. "Are you going to give up, or should I kick you off the stage too?" he provoked. Ethan and all the other Sphinx Academy students were incensed by his superiority. They wanted to kill him. Ethan gritted his teeth. "You're going off the stage this time," he warned. Raphael cackled and said, "Really? Show me what you've got then." He immediately charged Ethan. Ariana studied his stances. She realized he was one of the best students at the military academy. She knew he had already been doing well in the secret essence mine, and his moves were even better than before. He exerted his full power with each stance. His fists seemed to weigh 10,000 pounds as they slammed his opponents. Although his chest was injured, his punches were even fiercer. Ethan couldn't begin to describe the pressure and pain he was in, but he wouldn't give up. His legs were broken, and he was bleeding from multiple wounds. He was kicked in the chest and got the wind knocked out of him, but he wouldn't give in. Raphael dragged him to the edge of the stage. Ethan wrapped his arms around his legs and wouldn't let go. Raphael felt a chill run down his spine. The audience was so nervous that they didn't dare breathe. Raphael clapped his hands in Ethan's face to startle him so he would loosen his grip, but it didn't work. He still couldn't throw him off the stage. Then he decided to break Ethan's fingers, so he grabbed and bent each one backward. Even with his fingers broken, Ethan still wouldn't let go. Raphael couldn't believe how stubborn and incredibly resilient he was. He started punching him. Ethan spat out mouthfuls of blood, but he still clung on. He knew he couldn't let Raphael win. The audience had risen to their feet. They were astonished by Ethan's persistence. But despite how hard he tried, they could tell he wasn't strong enough to continue. "Stop!" Ariana shouted. "Ethan, you've lost. Come off the stage." Raphael was relieved. His opponent was so determined to cling on that he was running out of ways to get him off the stage. Although Ariana told him to admit defeat, Ethan refused. He glared at Ariana and shook his head. He wouldn't give in because he had a mission. Ariana went up on the stage and whispered in Ethan's ear, "Don't worry. I'll defeat all 5 of them. Trust me." He saw the look in Ariana's eyes and stopped resisting. He was finally drained of energy. Something snapped in his head, and he fell into Ariana's arms and passed out. Ariana passed him to Ashley, rose to her feet, and stared at Raphael. The audience from the Sphinx Academy was crestfallen. They thought they were going to lose because no matter how talented Ariana was, she had only just joined the team. The other 3 teammates were her seniors. If the others couldn't beat him, how can Ariana? Can she even withstand one blow? Someone asked. No one answered because they thought the same. "Mr. Yates, I thought your team would improve after last year, but I see they've become even weaker. Raphael is the weakest member on our team," Miss Weiss said in satisfaction. "He's not even the best student on the second team. If he defeats all 4 of your students, your school will lose its reputation. If you ask me nicely, perhaps I'll show some mercy and let him spare one of your players." She smiled and stood up as though the battle was over. She straightened her skirt as she said, "I was also a failure when I was with you, but my luck turned around as soon as I left. You're such a loser." Ariana heard her, and she glanced at the woman. Miss Weiss met her gaze, her expression seeming to harbor some malicious intentions. "You look like you have some muscle. If you give up now, I'll let you study at the military academy. How would you like that?" she asked in a casual tone because she was so sure that Ariana would agree. She didn't usually behave in such a manner, but she was so excited to defeat her ex-boyfriend that she had forgotten herself. She said whatever came to her mind. Miss Weiss smiled at Ariana and waited for her response. Everyone was staring at her. The students were so worried that she would agree to the terms. Ariana beamed at Miss Weiss. "I would never agree to those terms. You're a fool to even suggest them," she shouted. Miss Weiss felt as if she had just been slapped. The smile dropped from her face. The audience and Ariana's teammates were speechless. Mr. Yates didn't know what to say either. Everyone was dumbfounded. No one could believe she had answered a tutor in such a disrespectful way. Axel buried his face in his hands and thought, "Oh no, she's in big trouble now. And if the Crown Prince finds out what his girl said, he could blame me." Ariana walked up to Raphael, extended her hand and said, "I'm Ariana, the captain of the junior varsity team. Good luck." She was ready for battle. However, he wasn't. He gasped and was utterly dumbfounded. His mind had gone blank. He stared at her and even forgot to blink. "It's her. How can she be the captain of the junior varsity team? I should have looked more closely at all the members, he thought. He could have slapped himself. He was mortified and felt so stupid. He regretted bragging that he could defeat all 4 of them. Are you a student? Raphael's voice trembled. Ariana nodded.
Yep,
She replied. He sighed and said, And you're the captain? Ariana nodded again and responded,
that's right.
Miss Weiss stared at him, unsure why he wasn't doing anything. Kick her off the stage! She screamed. She was furious at what Ariana had said to her. However, Raphael bowed and announced, I'm so sorry. I've lost. He turned to walk off the stage. Miss Weiss was utterly perplexed. Apart from Ariana, everybody was equally puzzled. They had no idea what was going on. Everybody was asking questions. What happened? Someone asked. Isn't Raphael very capable? He said he was going to overthrow all 4 of our players. Why did he just admit defeat? Another inquired. Is it because Ariana is so pretty? A boy interjected.
What's that supposed to mean? Are you saying Ariana only has a pretty face?
A girl scoffed. Everybody was discussing it avidly, but they all looked cheerful because the other player had just admitted defeat. Miss Weiss was infuriated. She grabbed Raphael when he walked past her. What are you thinking? She questioned. Raphael smiled bitterly. I lost, he replied with a shrug. No, you didn't, she bellowed. You didn't even fight her. Raphael shook his head. Of course I didn't fight her. If I did, I would be dead, he thought. Go back in there and battle her, she roared. She wanted to drag Raphael back onto the stage. His face went white. I can't, Miss Weiss. I'm not her match, he said anxiously. Miss Weiss stared at Raphael. You've met her before? She asked. He nodded. She furrowed her brow and said, Did she defeat you? Raphael replied, No, she saved us. He wanted to point out that Ariana had saved more than just him, but Miss Weiss didn't hear him. She inquired, Are you not going to fight? Raphael said, No, not even if you kill me. As I said, I'm not her match. He still remembered Ariana's red dress and flashing sword. She was so powerful that he had quickly become her fan. Since her team still had 4 more players, Miss Weiss didn't insist. She waved her hand at him, indicating that she was cutting him loose. He immediately ran back to his seat. Uriel, it's your turn, she announced. He didn't want to fight. He had spotted Ariana before Raphael did. He was dumbfounded when he saw her face. He had been under the impression that Madeline had saved him and his group until someone told him it was Ariana. He had been shocked to learn the truth, and now he couldn't believe he was standing in front of his savior and the captain of the junior varsity team. Uriel could have cried. Even if she hadn't been their savior, he still wouldn't fight her. He remembered the way Ariana had killed countless spirit stoneworms with a single strike. Uriel! Miss Weiss shouted. She urged him to enter the ring. He looked at his teammates, but no one would make eye contact with him. Jophiel, his best friend, seemed to be studying the pattern on the back of the chair. No one wanted to get into trouble. Uriel! Miss Weiss repeated. She was furious. What's going on? Are they behaving like this because that girl is too pretty? She wondered. Seeing that she was ready to drag him onto the stage, he had no choice but to enter the arena. He walked as slowly as he could. She grabbed his shoulder when he walked past her. "Defeat her!" she commanded. He didn't know what to say because he knew it was an impossible task. He looked at her with tears in his eyes. Before she could react, he rushed to Ariana's side. He did the same thing as Raphael. He bowed and said, "I give up, my savior." After that, he ran off the stage to the Sphinx Academy side because he didn't want to get scolded by Miss Weiss. He sat back down in his seat. Miss Weiss was infuriated. She couldn't believe another of her fighters had given up. She didn't know what the boys were thinking. Meanwhile, the audience was equally dumbfounded. "What do you think is going on?" someone asked. "Has the military academy gone mad? 2 of them gave up without fighting," another commented. They were so confused. Although they felt a flicker of hope that they may experience success, the Dynasty team members were also perplexed. Miguel was almost too surprised to speak. "How did she do that?" he asked in a whisper. "Our opponents are very powerful," Ashley replied in awe. Turin asked, "Did he just call Ariana his savior? Is that it? Ariana helped them before, so they don't want to fight her?" Ashley said, "This is great. They're 2 men down. Our loss won't be as pathetic as we thought it was going to be." Axel shook his head. "Can't you be a little more hopeful?" he retorted. Miguel looked at his captain. "What do you mean?" Axel sucked his teeth and suggested, "I mean, why can't we win this battle?" Miguel looked at his captain. "Captain Axel, please wake up," he said as he pointed at the stage with a trembling finger. "Can't you see what's going on?" he continued passionately. "They're doing us a favor. They called Ariana their savior, which means she helped them before. Because of that, they want to return the favor and don't want to embarrass her. That's why they gave up. Do you think they'll keep doing that? Do you think they'll keep letting her win?" His eyes darted back and forth as his heart raced. He continued breathlessly. "Even if they want to, the other team members won't let them. She couldn't have helped all 5 of them. Just wait and see. She'll be crying in a moment. They're going to kick her off the stage." He was very certain. However, Jofiel, the 3rd player, proved his theory to be wrong. "My savior, I give up," Jofiel said. He bowed and ran off the stage. Miss Weiss was speechless. The rest of the crowd was equally silent. The 4th was Azrael. He replicated what his teammates did and happily ran off the stage. He seemed so relieved. To say everybody was astonished was an understatement. 4 players? Miss Weiss thought. She was enraged. 4 players had thanked Ariana and admitted defeat. Adriel, their captain, was the only player left. The Dynasty team looked at Adriel expectantly. They figured he would do the same. Miss Weiss was furious. She had thought her team would win. She never expected that they would lose, but things had turned out quite the opposite. "This is awful," she thought. She could have dropped to her knees and wept at that moment. She looked at the girl on stage. Ariana stood there looking unconcerned. Miss Weiss turned around and stared at Adriel. "If you give up, I'll make sure you're miserable every day for the rest of your life," she growled. Adriel looked down at the ground as he bit the side of his cheek. He knew he only had two choices. He could let Ariana kill him, or Miss Weiss would do it. He took a deep breath and walked onto the stage. "He's here!" someone from the crowd exclaimed. The audience was so nervous, especially Marissa, Hecuba, and the other students who knew Ariana well. "I heard Adriel is quite capable. He's good enough to go on the first team, but he didn't," Marissa commented. "Do you think he'll give up like the others?" Hecuba asked. "I hope so," Marissa replied. They all hoped Adriel would admit his defeat without fighting, but they were taken by surprise. He walked up to Ariana and smiled kindly at her. "My savior, it's nice to see you again," he said. When Adriel called Ariana his savior, the crowd erupted. "Did you hear that? He called her his savior!" Marissa shouted. She jumped to her feet. They expected him to bow out, just as the last four players had, because they all called Ariana their savior as well. Everyone in the audience stared at Adriel with twinkling eyes. Ariana nodded with an expressionless face. He shook his head. "I'm sorry about this. Ladies first," he said. The audience let out surprised cries. They all thought Ariana was doomed because he was preparing to fight her. They were trying to figure out why he wasn't automatically admitting defeat like his teammates had. "What did I tell you? They did that on purpose," Miguel proclaimed. "The other four players gave up first to return the favor, and now their captain will defeat Ariana. You celebrated too early. We all knew how this would end." Nobody could respond. They all thought Adriel was a much better warrior than Ariana. Axel was the only one who knew the truth, but he wasn't going to say anything. "Even if Ariana loses, it's still much better than it could have been, isn't it?" Turin snapped. "They could have defeated all four of us with one player. Ariana eliminated four players, right?" He was correct, but the team members still wished they could win. They didn't dare watch the battle because they didn't want to see their team lose. Right at that moment, there was a loud noise, and something heavy landed on the ground. They all spun around and spotted a person on the floor. "Adriel has crossed the line. Ariana is a girl and his savior. How could he fling her away like that?" Someone asked. Everybody looked up to see how badly Ariana had been injured. What they saw instead were the astonished expressions on the faces of Miss Weiss, Mr. Yates, and all the other tutors. Ariana was still on the stage. Her clothes were as neat as ever, and there wasn't a scratch on her. They were in shock when they realized who had fallen off the stage. Everybody looked in that direction. Someone walked over and turned him over and confirmed what they already knew to be true. "Adriel?" Someone whispered. "Captain Adriel?" Another cried out. "He was thrown off the stage!" A boy exclaimed. "That wasn't Ariana. What's going on? Am I seeing things?" A girl asked. "No, you saw correctly. Ariana kicked Adriel, and he flew off the stage before falling on the ground," a student blurted out. Everybody fell silent. They were trying to digest the information. Miss Weiss jumped to her feet. "That's not fair! She's cheating!" she shrieked. She charged at Ariana and tried to grab her. Ariana smirked.
"If this woman wants a battle, I'll be more than happy to give her one," she thought.
However, someone blocked Miss Weiss's way before she could make a move. Mr. Yates had stepped into her path to shield Ariana. The students were enthralled by the unseemly spectacle of their adulterous former teacher engaged in a beatdown of her ex-husband, who was the War Academy's deputy chief. Miss Weiss, who was now the Military Academy's vice principal, was a formidable fighter. Some of the students wondered whether she was going to kill Mr. Yates or just wound him. As it turned out, she didn't get a chance to do either one. Sphinx Academy elder Camden Madden suddenly appeared on the scene and put a stop to their altercation. "I should have the two of you sent to the Peace Grasslands battlefields," Master Madden cried. "You're both so bellicose." What he said wasn't strictly true. Vice Principal Weiss, as she was now known, had done all the punching and kicking. Mr. Yates hadn't laid a hand on his ex-wife. That was something he would never, ever do, even though she had cheated on him and broken his heart. After Master Madden scolded the former couple, Mr. Yates stood silently in front of Ariana like a human shield. The deputy chief knew how volatile his ex-wife's temper could be. She might lash out at Ariana, even in Master Madden's presence. Vice Principal Weiss used every ounce of her willpower to make herself stop smacking her ex-husband. She trembled with suppressed fury. "Master Madden!" she exclaimed imperiously. "I wish to make a complaint. Your students have lost their sense of honor and become cheaters." He snorted derisively. Vice Principal Weiss was the queen of cheaters. She had carried on a very public affair with the head of the Military Academy before divorcing Mr. Yates. Master Madden would have felt sympathy and respect for her if her affair had been fueled by romantic passion. After a lifetime of reading the works of great poets, he understood that wild emotion could wreck people's lives and set the world on fire. But it had been apparent to everyone but Mrs. Weiss's lover that she had engaged in their adulterous relationship to advance her career. Master Madden scowled with disapproval as he thought, "She could have had a successful career without behaving like that. She's smart and talented." He was still scowling when he fixed his stern gaze upon her. "Please be specific, Vice Principal Weiss," he said. "Who are you accusing of cheating? What makes you think they cheated? How exactly did they carry out their nefarious scheme?" The vice principal clenched her jaw so no curse words would escape from her mouth. She thought angrily, "That little bitch, Ariana Grace, did something underhanded. If I say she unfairly bewitched my students with her beauty, Master Madden will mock me. But I think they're infatuated with her, and that was a factor in their defeat." When the elder realized the vice principal wasn't going to reply, he said, "Weigh your words carefully before you make baseless accusations. As you surely recall, we don't tolerate slander at this school." Miss Weiss flinched. Master Madden had been her direct superior when she had been a Sphinx Academy teacher. Though she was now a person who wielded considerable power, she still found him intimidating. The elder turned his attention to Mr. Yates, who looked dazed. Master Madden said, "If the competition is over, then please announce the results." Mr. Yates shook his head as if to clear it. Then he stepped toward the edge of the stage and raised his arms in a dramatic gesture that got everyone's attention. "Ladies and gentlemen," he thundered, "the winner is Sphinx Academy." The spectators gasped and then broke into wild applause. Though the arena was just 1/3 full, the sound of their cheers shook the rafters. "I can't believe it!" one of the students screamed. "We won!" Her friend shouted. "Those fearsome fighters from the military academy were awed by Ariana." One young man stood alone at the back of the arena, glowering in silence amid the celebratory din. The angry young man was none other than Roman Hahn. He had quit the junior varsity team after being stripped of his position as its captain. Ariana had been given his job. Roman had stormed out of the building, fully expecting his friends to chase after him and beg him to remain on the team, but they hadn't done so. Roman had thought Ariana would insist that he continue serving as the captain for the good of the team, but she hadn't done so. Roman had thought Axel would apologize and say it had all been a mistake, but he hadn't done so. Tears of self-pity stung Roman's eyes. He was accustomed to being treated like a hero, but now everybody acted like he was a scoundrel. It was a novel experience, and it was awful. A moment after his hasty departure, Roman had returned to the building, fully expecting to see his team lose the competition. He had stood in the back of the arena and waited to see Axel get shamed for making Ariana the junior varsity team's captain. He had waited to see Ariana get blamed for a humiliating junior varsity team defeat. She was his sworn enemy because his girlfriend, Chrissy, hated her. Chrissy had disgraced herself in the secret essence mine and then recklessly volunteered to fight in the Peace Grassland to atone for her misdeeds. She had given a speech saying Ariana had taught her the error of her ways. Her words had cleverly placed the blame for her dangerous volunteer mission on Ariana. Now his classmates' shouts of joy drove Roman into a fit of rage. He was blinded by fury. When he regained the use of his faculties, he thought, "How could this happen? How could the fighters from the military academy be such weaklings? How could they be such losers?" Roman's rage went unnoticed by the other spectators. All eyes were on Ariana, the War Academy's new hero. The students started chanting her name. They screamed themselves hoarse. Then, when they were exhausted, they rushed out of the arena to spread the news of the junior varsity team's improbable victory. Silence settled over the arena. Vice Principal Weiss had the good sense not to make any further accusations about cheating, but her fury was unabated. Her prestige at the military academy depended in large part on the performance of its competitive teams, which she supervised. She stared venomously at Ariana, who remained calm and unruffled. She gave Miss Weiss the enigmatic half-smile she had offered her adversaries on so many previous occasions. The school administrator longed to claw Ariana's eyes out, but managed to restrain herself. Then Miss Weiss turned her attention to her ex-husband. "The competition that matters will take place tonight," she said icily. He replied coldly, "We look forward to it with great anticipation." Then she summoned the military academy's second team with a wave of her hand. They fell into line behind her like the good soldiers they were training to be and marched out of the arena. Miss Weiss wanted to get as far away from the arena as possible. On and on she strode. She didn't stop until she and the team reached the mountain at the back of the school. Then she slumped down as if her fury had drained her last reserves of energy. She leaned her back wearily against a tree and closed her eyes. The students were alarmed. Vice Principal Weiss was always vibrant and volatile, so her sudden silence was frightening. They gathered around her in a semicircle and sat cross-legged on the ground. The silence lengthened as the students were too scared to move a muscle. Then suddenly, her eyes flew open. Her glare was baleful. "What happened back there?" she asked in an ominously low voice. She pointed an accusing finger at Adriel. "Why did you let that little vixen win?" she snarled. "Tell me the truth." Adriel felt a stab of anger. The vice principal had no cause to question his veracity because he had always told the truth. "I did not let Ariana Grace win today," he said firmly. The vice principal snarled. "You're lying." He replied heatedly. "I'm not. She's a ferocious fighter, and I'm fortunate she didn't strike me dead." His teammate Raphael interjected himself into the conversation. "Vice Principal Weiss, please," Raphael said. "You must understand. Ariana is a goddess with fearsome fighting skills and terrifying spiritual prowess." The vice principal sneered. "A goddess?" Raphael replied. "Yes, ma'am. She saved Adriel and me, and our teammates from certain death." Miss Weiss asked, "What are you talking about?" He replied, "We got attacked by a horde of spirit stoneworms during a training exercise in the secret essence mine. When we were about to die, our goddess appeared as if by magic and killed all the cruel creatures." Vice Principal Weiss suddenly recalled that Adriel had told her about an astonishing fighter who had saved their lives in the mine. She said, "I've heard this story about your team's miraculous deliverance from death, but I understood your savior was the deputy chief of the War Academy, Miss Monroe." Raphael explained, "We made that assumption because our goddess was a spiritual king. We had been told there weren't any spiritual kings among the students here, so we guessed she was the famously precocious Miss Monroe." Reverent devotion made his eyes glow. He said, "Imagine our astonishment when we encountered our goddess on the stage today and learned her true identity." Raphael's adoring tone of voice made Miss Weiss want to smack him. She gave Adriel a sidelong glance, but to her dismay, his eyes glowed with reverent devotion too. The second team's other 3 members suddenly sighed rapturously at the mention of their goddess. Miss Weiss wanted to smack them too. Adriel and his teammates were diligent students with great potential. It was galling to think their careers could be derailed by their infatuation with a young woman from a rival school. "Oh, for God's sake!" she cried in exasperation. "You're all in love with the same person! You stupid, stupid boys!" Despite her shouting, the 5 of them stared dreamy-eyed into the distance and thought about their goddess. The vice principal felt a sudden surge of energy. She sprang to her feet and drew her sword. "Ariana has seduced you for her nefarious purposes," she screamed. "I'll kill her for that." The team members sprang to their feet too. It would be dishonorable to draw their swords against a military academy official, so they didn't. Instead, they stood in a tight formation and blocked her path down the mountain. "Please don't harm our goddess!" Adriel exclaimed. "She's done nothing wrong!" For a long, uncomfortable moment, the vice principal stared at the young men. Then she sheathed her sword and sneered. "This young woman will come between you and destroy your friendships with each other," she said. Adriel replied, No. That won't happen. Ma'am, none of us would ever make a play for her. We all know that none of us is worthy of her." Miss Weiss said, "I don't believe that for a minute. Her brains and beauty will entice you to compete for her attention." Once again, Raphael interjected himself into the conversation. "Vice Principal Weiss, please," he said once again. "You must understand. We've got a strong sense of self-worth, but we know Ariana is superior to us in every possible way. We would never pursue her romantically." Once again, the vice principal sneered. Adriel stepped in to elaborate. "We worship her from afar," he said. "She's the ideal warrior we long to emulate. She saves strangers' lives with no thought for her safety. She wields her sword with marvelous might." Miss Weiss gave him a glare filled with biting disapproval. "Young man," she exclaimed, "it's wrong of you to worship another human being." To her surprise, Adriel looked defiant instead of abashed, and so did his teammates. For another long, uncomfortable moment, there was silence. Then Raphael spoke up. "I don't appreciate being told whom I should and shouldn't worship," he said. "That's a deeply private matter. My goddess will forever remain enshrined in my heart." Miss Weiss flushed scarlet from her neck to her hairline. Such impertinence, she thought. Then Adriel said, "My devotion to my goddess will be eternal." The other 3 team members exclaimed, "Amen." The vice principal screamed, "I don't care if she's the queen of heaven! You shouldn't have let her win!" Adriel lost his temper. "How many times do I have to tell you?" he roared. "We didn't let her win! She's a spiritual king at the very least. Even if we all ganged up on her, she'd be able to slaughter every last one of us." Miss Weiss's flushed face turned an unhealthy shade of purple. She was about to scream at Adriel, but her tirade was interrupted by a distant shout. "Why are you all hiding on this wretched mountain?" An angry young man called out. The angry young man was Luigi Laredo, the captain of the military academy's first team. The vice principal and the military academy's second team all turned their heads to regard him and his teammates. They marched up the hill in single file like the good soldiers they were training to become. They had been searching high and low for Vice Principal Weiss ever since they had gotten word of the second team's stunning defeat. During the competition, they had been out strutting around Sphinx Academy's campus and sneering at everyone they had encountered. They had felt sure their second team was going to clinch an easy victory. It took the first team a couple of minutes to reach Miss Weiss and the second team. When they arrived, Luigi immediately started questioning her. "What happened in that arena?" he asked haughtily. "I demand an explanation." Her look of withering contempt made him recoil. She knew how to put a hotshot student like him in his place. Luigi turned his face away from her and sought to recover his bravado. He arranged his features into an arrogant expression and then he unleashed his fury on Adriel. "How did you and your pathetic teammates lose a battle you should have won easily?" Luigi shouted. Adriel knew he should be deferential to Luigi, but he was growing weary of being grilled about his team's defeat. "My opponent was Ariana Grace," Adriel said tersely. "She's a far, far better fighter than I am." Luigi gave him a hard stare. Adriel said, "She's a spiritual king." Luigi turned to his 4 teammates. "Who's Ariana Grace?" he asked. "I don't know," Chester Chaikin replied. Leighton Floyd said, "I've never heard of her." Arsenio Arango said, "Neither have I." Belisario Bean just shrugged. Adriel sighed. The military academy students knew remarkably little about anything that didn't involve members of their school. Otherwise, they would have heard about Ariana's astonishing trip to Big Sky Prairie's tombs. They would have known about the fireworks display the Crown Prince had commissioned to celebrate her birthday. "She's a ferocious fighter," Adriel said for the 2nd time that day. "She might be more skilled than you are, Captain Luigi." Chester snarled. "That's a very disloyal thing to say." Luigi didn't deign to respond to Adriel's implied insult. Instead, he said, "Tell me about her fighting techniques." Adriel recalled the elegant simplicity of Ariana's deadly swordplay. He said, "There's no fancy footwork or wasted motion. She chooses a single stance and uses it over and over again. She executes it perfectly every single time." Luigi scowled. "She's a flesh and blood human being," Luigi said, "but you make her sound like a battle goddess." Adriel wasn't about to explain to his hostile classmate that Ariana did indeed resemble a goddess when she fought. There was something Luigi would find out for himself if he ever crossed swords with her. Luigi had expected the second team's members to cower and quake when he demanded an explanation for their defeat. When they didn't, he quickly became bored by his conversation with them. "You know what?" he told Adriel. "I don't care about your team's defeat. It doesn't matter. My team's the important one." He turned to Vice Principal Weiss and said, "Fear not. We will win tonight." His 4 teammates suddenly thumped their fist over their hearts as they chanted in unison, "Victory! Victory is our cry! VICTORY!" Vice Principal Weiss gave the first team an appraising stare. Then she said, "Let's get something to eat. You gentlemen need to keep up your strength." Meanwhile, down in the arena, Ariana's teammates gathered admiringly around her. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" exclaimed Andy, who had become her biggest fan though he was a friend of Roman's. "You're something!" His smile lit up the arena. Turin looked at her quizzically. "Our opponents all addressed you as their savior," he said. "When did you rescue them?" Ariana replied, "I came upon them in the secret essence mine. A horde of spirit stoneworms was about to kill them. I took over their battle and saved them, and I gave them a paper crane to lead them out of the mine." Andy took over the conversation. "They owe you their lives, don't they?" he asked. Ariana said, "Yes, they do." Andy said, "They couldn't vanquish those giant worms, and you could. That makes you stronger than all 5 of them put together, doesn't it?" Ariana replied, "Yes, it does." Her listeners gasped. She was even more powerful than they thought she was. "What's your spiritual ranking?" Andy asked. Ariana said matter-of-factly, "I'm a spiritual king." Her listeners gasped again. "Oh my God! Oh my God!" Andy exclaimed once again. Our team is so lucky to have you. Now we have 2 spiritual kings. Roman will be so surprised when he hears about this. By sheer happenstance, Roman was standing backstage, just out of sight when Andy spoke his name. After quitting the junior varsity team in a fit of anger, Roman had stood alone at the back of the arena and witnessed the team's astonishing victory. The rage he had felt at seeing them triumph without his help had eventually given way to regret. So he had sneaked backstage in hopes of quietly cornering Axel and begging for forgiveness. I'll bet my teammates are going to say some awful things about me, Roman thought. He stood there for a moment and listened. Turin was the first person to say something harsh. He said, I think Roman already knows how powerful Ariana is. He tried to keep her from taking part in the competition. Roman stood backstage in the arena and eavesdropped on his former teammates, who were still gathered on the stage. Andy said, I remember Roman didn't want to fight against Ariana. Now I realize he knew she would beat him to a pulp. Turin said, Roman tried to keep Ariana out of the competition. He complained she hadn't completed the necessary paperwork, and he said she didn't know the competition's rules. Turin's listeners nodded. Roman felt a little sick. Turin said angrily, Roman knew how humiliated we were by last year's defeat. He knew how desperate we were to win this year and regain our dignity. If he cared about us, why'd he try to stop Ariana from fighting with us? Andy gasped. Roman was jealous of Ariana, he exclaimed. He felt sad because Roman was his friend. Turin replied, You must be right. Roman realized if Ariana got the opportunity to compete, everybody would be awed by her fighting prowess. They'd see her skills were superior to his. Underneath his mask of false bravado, he's very insecure, so he felt threatened. Andy said, Roman was probably afraid the captain's position would be taken away from him and given to Ariana. Of course, that happened anyway. Roman felt sick. He thought, It's like they read my mind. Now they know how petty and self-centered I am. Another friend of Roman's, Miguel Vidal, blushed with shame as he listened to the conversation. He kept his eyes averted from Ariana. He prayed she wouldn't recall how he had sided with Roman against her when they had first met. What a fool I was, Miguel thought. I said she was arrogant and shouldn't be on our team. The memory of his brutish behavior made him blush even harder. The Dynasty team's members all started talking at once. Roman's not a team player, is he? Said Calvin Kerr. If he asks to be let back on the team, we should tell him no. Turin said, If he asks to be let back on the team, we should give him a thrashing. Ashley Schneider said, Because of Roman, the 4 of us who were left on the junior varsity team had to fight against 5 opponents from the military academy's team. Ethan Fuentes exclaimed, If it weren't for Ariana, we'd be crying our eyes out now. Roman felt a surge of panic. Suddenly, he couldn't stand to hear another word, so he crept very quietly to the backstage exit. He opened the door very slowly so the hinges wouldn't creak. Then he stepped into the open air and glanced around furtively. Nobody paid any attention to him. Then he ran and hid in a place where he hoped his former teammates wouldn't be able to find him and give him the beatdown he so richly deserved. Back inside the arena, the Dynasty team members were tired of talking about Roman's treachery and began discussing a favorite topic of theirs, which was spiritual rankings. Just think, Turin said. Axel recently became a spiritual king. And now that Ariana has joined us, we've got a second one. Calvin said. Previously, the prospect of facing a military academy team with 3 spiritual kings was daunting. Our prospects for victory are much better now. Turin said, We do have a chance of winning. The Dynasty team broke into spontaneous cheer. They hooted and hollered. They jumped up and down and screamed themselves hoarse. For a year, they had lived with the humiliation of their stinging defeat at the hands of the military academy's team. For a year, they had lived with the knowledge that they had disappointed the Crown Prince, who had founded their team. For a year, they had lived with the fear that the military academy's team would beat them again. But now Turin, who was a level-headed realist, had said the victory was possible. They couldn't keep their youthful elation bottled up inside, and they just needed to yell. When they had finally tired themselves out, they flopped down on the stage floor in a companionable cluster. Let's do some strategizing, Turin said. Our junior varsity team won today, so we get to determine the order of their players in our varsity matchup. How should we arrange their lineup so we can win the 2-against-3 competition? The team pondered his question. Ariana suddenly broke the silence by saying, Why does everybody assume it's 2 against 3? Her teammates gasped, and the blood drained from their faces. Andy gave voice to their fear. Oh, Ariana, he said in dismay. Please don't back out now. We're counting on you. Ariana thought fleetingly. It was unkind of me to scare them, but I couldn't resist teasing them just a little bit. Then she said, I'm not backing out. Andy said, I don't understand. With you in our lineup, we'll have 2 spiritual kings. Our opponents have 3 of them. Ariana said, It could be a 3-against-3 competition. Her teammates gasped again. Turin asked, Does a spiritual king live hidden among us? If so, tell us who they are. Ariana smiled her enigmatic half-smile. It's you, Turin, she said. He scowled and asked, What are you talking about? Ariana kept silent. He said, Please don't make fun of me, Ariana. Spiritual rankings are a sensitive subject for the people on this team. You're a new member, and you might not realize it took Axel 2 years of arduous effort to become a spiritual king. Ariana knew all about Axel's previous cultivation problems. When the 2 of them had spent time together in the secret essence mine, Little Phoenix had told her Axel had a crack in his energy center. His spiritual essence had leaked whenever he cultivated. Turin continued his rant about spiritual rankings. He said, If I'm lucky, it will take me at least 2 more years to become a spiritual king. If I'm unlucky, it will never happen. You might not realize the gap between a level 9 spiritual lord and a level 1 spiritual king. It's enormous. Ariana knew all about the vast difference between those spiritual rankings. She had worked very hard to become a spiritual king. Once again, she smiled her enigmatic half-smile at Turin. A chill ran up his spine. What on earth is she thinking? He wondered. Axel interrupted Turin's monologue by giving his friend a brotherly embrace. Ariana's not mocking you, Axel said. If she tells you that you're going to become a spiritual king, you will. Turin looked at Axel in bewilderment. Ariana pulled a small vial out of her pocket and handed it to Turin. He held it up to the light and gazed at the murky liquid inside it. Axel snatched the vial, uncorked it, and poured its contents down Turin's throat. Their teammates gasped as Turin made a face. "What was in that vial?" he said, "and why did it taste so terrible?" Ariana tried not to snicker. Turin had just swallowed a dose of the spirit wine Little Phoenix had buried long ago in the mine. The bird had placed the wine's container in a revolting cesspit frequented by giant worms. Ariana decided not to share that information with Turin. She didn't want him to have nightmares. She simply said, "That's the taste of a spiritual king." Turin said once again, "Please don't make fun of me, Ariana." Of course, Axel knew Ariana had just done Turin a big favor. Axel had dug the wine out of the cesspit for her when they had been in the mine together. Later, he had drunk a dose of it. The crack in his energy center had healed, and he had become a spiritual king. Ariana's other teammates were giving her strange looks, so she decided it was time for a new topic of conversation. She suggested, "Let's get something to eat. We need to keep up our strength." Food was a safe topic of conversation. "Yes, please. Let's go have lunch." Axel agreed. "We can discuss the order of the opposing players' lineup while we eat." "Where should we go?" Calvin asked. "Let's go to Star Cloud Tower. Ariana can foot the bill with some of the points she earned from today's fight," Andy said.
Wait, what? Are we getting paid for participating in the competition?
Ariana said. "Yes, we are. The school rewards us when we win. Because our victory was entirely your doing, you'll receive at least 10,000 points," Andy replied.
In that case, I'd be happy to pick up the tab for our meal. Now tell me what Star Cloud Tower is,
Ariana said. "I'm surprised you don't know about it," Andy said. Turin had decided to act like he wasn't perturbed about the foul-tasting liquid Axel had just poured down his throat. His teammates were feeling optimistic about the possibility of winning the upcoming varsity competition, and he didn't want to spoil their happy day. He didn't realize the liquid he had imbibed was spirit wine, which Sphinx Academy's elders prized because it was a powerful cultivation aid. He didn't know his spiritual essence was undergoing a drastic change at that very moment. Turin joined the conversation by saying, "Andy, Ariana's a recent arrival at War Academy. You can't expect her to know about our team's favorite restaurant." Andy murmured, "I see your point." Turin told Ariana, "Star Cloud Tower is very exclusive. Only tutors and Class A students are allowed to eat there. A mysterious chef prepares just one feast per month. He cooks with ingredients that are rich in spiritual essences because they come from magical beasts." Ariana listened intently. "The food's very particular, but it works wonders for your cultivation if you're lucky enough to get to eat it. You suddenly become enlightened about things that have always baffled you." Turin continued. Axel joined the conversation. "None of the guests have ever seen the chef, who's said to be an extremely capable cultivator. I heard he's Master Lackland's cook. Once a month, he takes the day off to work at Star Cloud Tower," he said. Ariana was intrigued that an employee of Lackland's was involved in the restaurant. "You never told us the chef works for the master of Wooting Temple," Calvin said. "I heard it from Mr. Yates. He also said if I didn't try to eat the tower's magical meal as often as possible, that I would regret it for the rest of my life," Axel replied.
It sounds like Star Cloud Tower would be the perfect place to have lunch before our varsity competition. Let's make a reservation,
Ariana said. Everyone stared at her in astonishment. "They don't accept reservations," Axel explained. "But maybe we'll get lucky." Many of Mystic Valley's fanciest restaurants refused to take reservations. The tactic enhanced their air of exclusivity. But Star Cloud Tower was exclusive in its special way, as Ariana discovered when she and her teammates stepped into its ground floor lobby. It was filled with tables where hundreds of teams of Class A students sat and hoped for the best. The second level of the building had a single table where the food cooked by a mysterious chef named Master Muncie was served just once a month. Star Cloud Tower was on the grounds of Sphinx Academy, but was independently owned. The restaurant's proprietor, Callie Corbell, didn't take orders from the school's top brass. But the brainy young entrepreneur wisely maintained cordial relationships with the school's elders, administrators, and tutors. She also had a charming demeanor that put her customers at ease. She treated Axel and his teammates like old friends.
"Captain Axel, I'm so glad you're here,"
Callie said.
"I was starting to think you might not be able to make it this month."
Andy murmured to Ariana. Since he moved up to Class A, Axel has come to this restaurant every time it was open, unless he was away on a mission. Axel continued his conversation with Callie. "I hope Lady Luck smiles on me today," he said. She smiled warmly as she said,
"I hope so too. I know you've only had one opportunity to eat the chef's special meal."
Axel sighed with longing as he recalled the peculiar food he had eaten up on the second floor. He remembered how he had felt fresh insights blossom inside his mind shortly after the meal had ended. Callie interrupted his reverie by saying,
"Where are my manners? I haven't greeted your distinguished teammate."
She turned to Ariana and bowed reverently.
"You must be the legendary Ariana Grace,"
Callie said.
"It's an honor to have you here."
Ariana was touched. New acquaintances so often treated her with cruel contempt or hostile jealousy. But Callie had been kind. Axel said, "How do you know our new teammate?" Callie replied,
"Her reputation precedes her."
Then she turned to Ariana.
"I know everything that goes on at the War Academy, Miss Grace,"
Callie said.
"So I know everyone at this school is talking about your astonishing victory today. After your glorious battle, your name is on everyone's lips."
Once again, Ariana was touched. People so often talked about her in her presence as though she were invisible. But Callie talked directly to her.
"Let me congratulate you on saving your team from ignominious defeat and restoring their honor and dignity,"
Callie continued.
"Thank you,"
Ariana murmured.
"I would love to hear a first-hand description of the fight, Miss Grace, but the chef is going to finish cooking in 5 minutes, so I must hustle off,"
Callie said. Then she turned to Axel and handed him a number plate. Ariana noticed that number plates already stood on all the other tables.
"I'm hoping Master Muncie will be drawn to this number,"
Callie whispered so only Axel and his teammates could hear her words. Each month, the mysterious chef randomly chose a number after he finished his cooking. The team that had the lucky number plate gets the privilege of ascending to the second floor of the tower and eating at the lone table that waited there. Going to Callie's restaurant was a humbling experience for the hard-driving, ambitious students of Class A. They couldn't get the coveted meal by being the most talented cultivator in the restaurant. They couldn't get the coveted meal by having the biggest stash of saved-up points to pay an astronomical sum for it. Ariana and her teammates settled in to wait for the winning number to be announced. Suddenly, there was a commotion near the lobby's entrance. The commotion was caused by Mr. Yates's adulterous ex-wife, who was now the vice principal of the military academy. Miss Weiss had decided to insist that because she had previously worked at Sphinx Academy, she had the right to eat at Star Cloud Tower. Of course, she also insisted on bringing the military academy's competitive teams with her. When she strolled boldly into the room, they marched in single file behind her, like the good soldiers they were training to be. Ariana's teammates gasped when they saw their opponents. "What are they doing here?" Turin snarled as he leaped out of his chair. His teammates rose to their feet too. Though Turin didn't realize it, his spiritual essence was undergoing a drastic change at that very moment because of the spirit wine Axel had poured down his throat. The Dynasty team watched as Luigi Laredo, the captain of the military academy's first team, suddenly broke away from the line of students walking behind Vice President Weiss. Luigi's 4 teammates clustered protectively around him like bodyguards. They stayed close to him when he stepped toward Axel and gave him an icy stare. Anger flared in Axel's eyes, and the air crackled with hostility. "Poor little Axel," Luigi suddenly said. "You've been stuck at the spiritual lord stage for so long. I wonder if you'll ever find out what it feels like to be a spiritual king like me." Luigi made sure to speak loudly enough to be heard in every corner of the room. "I'll bet you never thought I'd surge ahead of you and leave you feeling helplessly jealous," he said. "I'm a year older than you are, but you matriculated at Sphinx Academy before I made it to the military academy." He cast a glance around the room to make sure everyone was listening. "When you were a level 8 spiritual lord, I was only at level 7, Luigi said. "When you were at level 9, I was bottlenecked at level 8. I thought I'd always be one step behind you. I'm glad I was wrong." A muscle in Axel's jaw twitched. He stared at Luigi. For a long, uncomfortable moment, there was silence. Then Ariana rudely said, "You must be blind, Luigi Laredo." The onlookers gasped. Luigi was a spiritual king with superb fighting skills and a very bad temper, so people seldom spoke rudely to him. He turned his face to see who had insulted him. She was a young woman dressed in red. Beauty, strength, and intelligence radiated from her with their golden glow. "Oh," Luigi thought, "there you are." "You must be Miss Ariana Grace," he said in the most debonair tone he could muster. Axel's blood ran cold. He thought, if Luigi puts the moves on Ariana, the Crown Prince will kill him. "Luigi, please," Axel said. "Don't involve my esteemed teammate in our personal quarrel." Luigi sneered silently. Axel declared, "I know Ariana can speak for herself, but I'll say it anyway. You can't afford to offend her." Luigi just laughed. Axel had to stifle the urge to laugh as he looked at Luigi. It was almost as if he was trying to flirt with Ariana. He may have been a spiritual king, but he was still nothing in comparison to the Crown Prince. "What's the matter?" asked Luigi in a way that he had hoped was condescending. He could see that Axel had found something funny, but he had no idea what. Ariana had also worked out what he was trying to do. He seemed to be mimicking Prince Warwick in the hope she might respond favorably. "Are you blind?" she asked, her voice cold. Luigi didn't answer. Ever since he had made a name for himself in the military academy, no one had ever treated him like that. "Young lady, do you know who you're talking to?" asked Leighton Floyd haughtily. "A blind man, obviously," said Ariana. She had even less time for him than she had for Luigi. Callie Corbell couldn't help herself. She burst out laughing. But as she saw Luigi glare at her, she quickly stifled it and pretended to clear her throat.
"Everybody, if you're here to eat, there's still a table over there. Please take your seats,"
she said brightly, trying to change the subject. "We'll wait for Master Muncie if that's okay," said Vice Principal Weiss.
"I see,"
said Callie.
"In that case, you'll have to get in line."
Miss Weiss knew the rules, so she took a number plate and sat down. As they sat, Luigi kept glancing surreptitiously at Ariana. Layton noticed his friend's behavior. "Do you have a crush on the girl?" he whispered. "She's a pretty girl. Of course I like her," said Luigi, loud enough for everyone, including Ariana, to hear. Axel stared at him. He couldn't believe the man's cheek. Did he just say Ariana's good enough for him? He asked himself, convinced he must have heard wrong. He decided that it was time to speak up. "You must be dreaming," he said. "You've got to be as good as the Crown Prince to go out with Ariana." But Luigi wasn't intimidated by his words. "The Crown Prince?" he said. "You must be very bold to mention his name in front of me. You must have a death wish." "No," said Axel. "You're the one who's going to get yourself killed. And it'll happen so quickly, you won't know it's happened." "But you'll know when you're about to die," said Luigi, his voice full of venom. "His Royal Highness will kill you." But Axel had stopped listening. He turned away and ignored him. Ever since they were little, Luigi had compared himself to Axel. Even his parents had used Axel's achievements to try and motivate him. But their plan had backfired. As he matured, he developed a strong hatred for his supposed rival. Killing him was what motivated him for many years. He had even torn down the Sphinx Academy's flag after the military academy had won the previous year's competition. Had it not been for a timely intervention from a friend, he would have trampled on it too. As he watched Axel ignore him, a wave of anger washed over him. He had had enough. "Do you know about His Royal Highness's relationship with the military academy?" he asked loudly, trying to catch his attention. Axel glanced at him briefly, boredom written all over his face. "I don't know anything about the relationship between the military academy and His Royal Highness," said Axel. "I only know that he's very close to the Sphinx Academy." "Well, guess what? His Royal Highness is our school's honorary chief now," said Luigi, a smug smile on his face. "What?" said Axel. It was news to him. "Oh yes, and the Crown Prince is also the military team's commander-in-chief," added Luigi, enjoying the impact his words were having. "But he graduated from the Sphinx Academy," Axel replied, unable to keep the shock out of his voice. "Why would he be your commander-in-chief?" Luigi chuckled. "Given His Royal Highness's level, do you think you would be confined by where he graduated from?" he asked. "He's the Crown Prince and our future king. He can do whatever he wants." Deep down, Axel knew he was right. As the future king, Prince Warwick could choose to lead whichever team he wanted. But Luigi hadn't finished with breaking news to Axel. "Did you know the Crown Prince is recruiting guards?" he asked casually. "Is that so? Why haven't I heard about it?" asked Axel. Because only spiritual kings will be considered as candidates, so you're not qualified, said Luigi. He was beginning to gloat. I don't think being a spiritual king will be enough to be His Royal Highness's guard, said Axel. Oh, it will be enough for me to pass the test, said Luigi, his smug smile growing. They're only recruiting junior guards, he continued. You didn't think you'd start as the Crown Prince's guard, did you? You'll have to go through a lot of training and multiple selections before you can become a senior guard. Only then will you get close to His Royal Highness. The process will take at least 10 years. But Axel had stopped listening. He looked at Ariana because he had an idea. With Ariana's help, he might just overtake Luigi after all. What? She asked, his gaze making her feel uncomfortable. But Luigi spoke before Axel could answer. His words hadn't had the desired effect on his rival, and he wasn't happy. Rather than look deflated, Axel seemed delighted with his news. Are you telling me you're going to apply for the job? Luigi stammered. Of course, said Axel. Luigi's shoulders sagged. He had so desperately wanted to show off in front of Ariana, but it seemed that his plan had backfired. He turned away from Axel, keen for him not to see the disappointment he had caused. As he turned away, his thoughts began to wander. General Victor Grace was the most senior general in the Peace Grassland. As well as commanding hundreds of thousands of soldiers, he also led 2 special troops. Both troops consisted of the most capable warriors. They had to be at least spiritual kings. During the battle against the Blue Sky Kingdom, all participants fought opponents of their levels. That rule had been agreed upon at the beginning of the hostilities. Both countries keen not to see one advanced cultivator annihilate a group of ordinary soldiers. It just wouldn't have been fair. However, Luigi's mind turned to the 2 special forces employed by the Mystic Kingdom, the military team and the Dynasty team. The Dynasty team's current commander-in-chief was a mysterious elder of the Sphinx Academy, a person that no one had ever seen. As his mind whirred, Luigi's eyes never left Ariana. As he watched her, his thoughts even turned to the idea of settling down and having children with her. She's the one, he thought decisively. But I must be careful how I play it. His Royal Highness is a man of few words. Perhaps I should be more like him. Meanwhile, Ariana had been watching Miss Weiss, who had gone to the back of the tower. Ariana decided to follow her. She watched her knock on a door that was rarely used. The vice principal knocked rhythmically, almost as if she was tapping out a code. She knocked loudly 3 times, followed by a quiet knock. To Ariana's surprise, the door opened. The door had only opened a few inches before it stopped. Miss Weiss waved her number plate to the person on the other side. No doubt to be allowed entry, Ariana presumed. As the door opened further, Ariana strained her eyes to see who had permitted Miss Weiss entry. It was little Albert, the monk who served Master Lachlan. What's he doing here? She thought. But as her mind worked furiously, she realized that his presence was no surprise. Like Master Muncie, little Albert was also from the Wooting Temple. What was more surprising, however, was that Miss Weiss must have been cheating, and cheating was something Ariana couldn't stand. Chancing her luck, she hid in a corner as the vice principal turned away from the door and retraced her steps. She looked guilty, as if she deplored even her own conduct. Ariana smiled as she watched her leave. If her opponent was going to use connections instead of luck, she decided she would do the same. She knocked on the door with the same rhythm. "Stop this!" shouted a voice that was unmistakably little Albert's. "Haven't I told you already? I'll give you food in return for that favor we owe you. Why are you—" But he stopped mid-sentence as he opened the door to find that it wasn't Miss Weiss he was speaking to after all. Ariana smiled at him. "Ariana, I missed you," he said. Miss Weiss walked back to her table with a satisfied smile on her face, just as Andy Wang happened to arrive with Mr. Yates. Since the other team had Miss Weiss, the Dynasty team decided they should also have a tutor to mentor them. It had never occurred to anyone to invite Madeline Monroe. Axel and his team had been ignoring her ever since the incident in the secret essence mine. Only those students who didn't know what had happened still considered her a deputy chief, but even they were not content to invite her. Mr. Yates had spotted Miss Weiss returning from the door. "Did you go to the back room just then?" he asked. Miss Weiss glared at him. "What? Do I have to ask for your permission to go to the bathroom?" she asked sharply. Embarrassed, Mr. Yates looked away. "We're going to try our luck today," said Andy, changing the subject. "With Ariana here, maybe Master Muncie will pick us." Mr. Yates shook his head. He turned to Callie and asked, "How many number plates are there today?" 76, she replied briskly. "Then you have a 1 in 76 chance," Mr. Yates told Andy. "Are you going to trust your luck?" No one answered. "Today is the day of your competition," he continued. "As your deputy chief, I should give you a gift for this special occasion. Master Muncie owes me a big favor, and he's agreed to cook me a meal to return that favor. I'm going to use that opportunity today." The Dynasty team cheered loudly. Did that mean they didn't need to try their luck that day? "Aren't you a little too late for that?" asked Miss Weiss with a cold smile. "What do you mean?" he asked. He stared at her, watching her smile broaden. "You've used it already, haven't you?" he said, realization dawning. She didn't answer. "You've crossed the line," he shouted. Although normally mild-mannered, anger washed over him. "I saved him, not you." Miss Weiss shrugged. "Yes, I've used it already," she said casually. "So what?" "You!" he shouted, too angry to say anything more. Both teams were watching them, trying to work out why they were arguing. Master Muncie appeared to owe the two of them a favor, but it seemed Miss Weiss had managed to call it in first. Mr. Yates glared at her. He knew there was nothing he could do. As the Dynasty team took in the news, their smiles vanished. Luigi and his teammates, however, watched happily. It seemed fortune was on their side after all. "Does that mean our number plate is useless?" Axel asked Callie. Callie looked at him for a long time before she answered. It was very rare for Master Muncie to owe someone a favor, and only the second time he had used his feast to return one. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know this was going to happen," she said quietly. Every Sphinx Academy student in the room looked at her sadly. They had all planned to give their opportunity to the Dynasty team had they been chosen, and they all knew that that meal would have increased their cultivation level. Of the 76 numbers, only one number belonged to their opponent. but still they had lost. Luigi was particularly pleased to see such angry faces, especially Axel's. "Axel Leone, you've lost to me again," he said happily. "You're not a spiritual king, and even though we're in your territory, you won't be the ones eating Master Muncie's food." Axel didn't answer. He was using all his willpower just to stop himself from punching him. Luigi was right. They were in his home territory, but he had lost. Having returned from following Miss Weiss, Ariana could stand it no longer. "I think you've missed something," she said to Luigi. "My captain is a spiritual king. Didn't you know?" Luigi didn't know. If he wanted to detect another person's cultivation level, he would need to activate their spiritual essence. Luigi had never bothered to check Axel's cultivation level, but Ariana's words made him think. It was time to find out. "You're a spiritual king too," he said, his voice full of amazement when he finally realized Axel's true level. "Why are you so surprised?" asked Axel, his voice cold. "You should have been a spiritual king a long time ago," Luigi replied, trying to recover his composure. "What took you so long?" When Axel didn't answer, he was quick to continue. "Even so, your team still only has one spiritual king. That won't be enough to bother us." A cough from Ariana reminded him of something. "Right, I forgot," he said, smacking his forehead theatrically. "Little Ariana here is a spiritual king too. How impressive." "You don't get to call her Little Ariana," shouted Axel, jumping up in frustration, the sudden movement making Luigi jump. As Luigi watched the Dynasty team, he noticed that they all seemed equally angered by his comment. Never before had he seen the team so united. Not that he cared. They still had fewer spiritual kings than his team. As far as he was concerned, one extra spiritual king on the opposition team would do nothing more than slow down his victory. Luigi, however, was the only one in his team with those thoughts. His colleagues were less impressed with the news of Axel and Ariana's true levels. Word quickly spread among them that the Dynasty team was more powerful than they expected. But the news spread faster around the Sphinx Academy students. "I didn't know Ariana was a spiritual king," could be heard echoing around the room. "Until a few days ago, we were in the same class." Ariana heard a girl she didn't know say, "Now my former classmate is a spiritual king." "I said things behind her back," she heard another girl say. "I said them about a spiritual king. What was I thinking?" The Class E students, however, cheered at the top of their lungs. So did most of the students of Classes D, C, and B. As for Class A, the students were used to her unbelievable rate of progress. They just wished she could graduate as soon as possible, so she would stop shocking everyone. They used to think they were elite, but since her arrival, that feeling had vanished. Nor were they surprised by Axel becoming a spiritual king. To their minds, he had put in the work and had earned it. They were more concerned with their chances in the competition now that they had another spiritual king on the team. "Does that mean we have a chance to defeat the military academy?" asked one Class A student. "That's right. 2 against 3. I think we have a chance," said his friend. "I can't wait to watch the contest."